I decided a while ago that I was going to attempt to do a short little YouTube series on my profile thing, account, channel. It kind of gets used for a lot of stuff. But I'm going to be going around Gensokyo and featuring some of the builds, starting off with the ones that I've actually worked on and have the most information about, kind of giving you guys a gist of how did I make it, why did I make it, what went through my head when I was building it, and right now I'm just sitting here waiting for my night vision to wear off, because I was building in the dark, and that's what happens when I build in the dark. I like being able to see what I'm working on. Alright, so with that going, I'll go ahead and turn it to day, and we'll get this show on the road. So, for starters, I actually did not do any of the terraforming around it. The only thing I really did was the garden around the castle, and the castle itself. All of this stuff, I believe, was done by Walls, playing with the spike brush, which is actually really cool, but it actually starts off with the stage 4 from Touhou 14, the stormy clouds that go around the castle, where you fight the Tsukumo sisters. And it was pretty much just described as a lot of lightning clouds. You revisit it again in the extra stage when you go against Raiko. So this is all based off of the stage. You see a lot of the rings, the ring theme that kind of went on in the background a little bit, just as we can replicate it into Minecraft, as well as the dark stormy thunderclouds, which set the mood for the rest of the game. So going forward here, sideways I guess, is the actual castle itself. Now, canonically, the castle is supposed to be upside down, but due to Gensokyo being in default, it's a survival world. Well, you run around semi-survival. You can't really get around it if it's upside down. So I made the design choice to actually put it right side up, and I did the upside down parts actually on the interior. So here's some of the gardening, getting in the hanging gardens, and actually going up the stairs. The actual building itself, I'll show you what I based it off of. Here's the White Egret Castle. I can't remember what the actual Japanese name for it is. It's sad, I wrote an essay on it, but yeah. It's actually based off of this building here, is White Egret Castle, which was the first stone and plaster castle to be built in Japan at the end of the feudal era. So it's a little bit of cultural significance. As you see, it's not exact replica, because I can't imagine it ever being an exact replica. That'd just be weird. But true to its origins, it is predominantly a stone and plaster building, with detailed roofs with a lot of I was trying to think why they would call it the Shining Needle Castle of all things, and aside from Sukuna's sword, all I could think of is that it would have these ornament decorations that had the very needle-like shape to it. So I tried to make needle as much as I could in Minecraft. I tried. So let's go ahead and go into the main door here. The interior to this is very plain, because this is just the outer wall. We wouldn't really have a whole lot in the outer wall except for maybe storing for barracks, but only Sukuna and occasionally Seija actually live in this building. The Tsukumo sisters actually canonically live with Raiko, and Raiko's house is not this. I actually need to fix some of the stairs. They got messed up in World Edit. But the actual building itself is fairly decent. I also need to relight that hallway. I need to work on the wall still. Well, so here's one of the gardens. Now, if this was upside down, this would not work, because sand and water, and I mean, there are tricks that I could do with stained glass to create the illusion of water that's staying in place, but honestly, I think it just looks much nicer being right side up. Going inside of the castle itself, I picked green for the first floor, and eventually it turns into red and yellow. Now, as I said before, the building actually canonically flips upside down and right side up. So some of the rooms are right side up, and some of the rooms are upside down. Let's see if I can find one of them. I tried to scatter them as best as here's an upside down room. Here we go. But I did this so I could try and create the illusion that the building itself was flipping upside down while you were inside of it, because that's actually what happens. When you are first playing through the stage, stage 5, when you're going against Seija, the stage starts off right side up, and then it flips upside down when you're actually moving around inside of the castle. So I don't imagine the building actually being upside down the entire time, despite it canonically being upside down. Sure, it stays upside down for the most part, but that's a lot of because of Seija's power. At the end of 14, and especially at the end of Seija's game, I can't remember the name of it right now, it's too early in the morning, Sukuna actually gets pissed off at her because she realizes that she'd been manipulated by the clever Kijin the entire time. Got really pissed off at her, basically kicked her out. And Sukuna was offended that she'd been used like that. used to cause a civil uprising for Sage's amusement. So, as far as I know, canonically, Sage is really the only one who doesn't live here anymore, meaning that Sukuna is the sole inhabitant. So, technically, if this is going to be post-14, and especially post Sage's game, 14.5, 14.3, I can't remember, it's some decimal point, Sage actually wouldn't be here, and this building would all be right side up. But I did Sage's room. I had a little bit of fun with the patterns. I'm not sure I'm in love with what I did with the ceiling, but I couldn't really think of a way to make it more obviously Sage's room. But the color schemes that I picked for the walls, I'll talk about that a little bit versus the downstairs. So you can actually see that this is reverse ideology. This is the stage 5, but it starts off with kind of the a more neutral tone to the walls and a green floor, and eventually when you go into stage 6, I couldn't find an image of it on Google, sadly, it goes into red and yellow and gets very bright. So I actually showed that going through, and finally, like right before you face Sukuna, the walls turn blue, the floor is yellow. I made a tea room because I couldn't think of what else to do with this space, but I had to fill it with something. Interior garden wouldn't really quite make sense, so I made a tea room. Little cushions and high tempted teacups and flower pots. I know that bothers walls because you can visibly see the dirt in it, but there's not really a better way to do it. It's Minecraft, not 3DS Max. Going up, we actually have Sukuna's room now. Yuko actually did the interior of this part. I did the bed cushion, but that was about it. She did all of the other stuff. I laid out where I wanted the bed, and she went and filled out the rest of it. Got the upper rafters in here. I was tempted to hide a secret up in here, but I couldn't really think of what to do with it, since it is possible if you go into survival or adventure where you spawn into, you can do the little super jump thing. You can actually jump yourself up there, it's just tricky to do. Let's see if I can do it. There we go. But I've managed to get myself up into the rafters. Like so. So it is actually possible to get up here if you spam spacebar a lot with the plugins we have on the server. And then you can kill yourself on the way down. So that's kind of Shiny Needle Castle in a nutshell. A lot of it was me just improvising with what little information that we had at the time when the 14th game first came out. I think I built this 5 days after the game's release. And I played through the game, I think 2 days after it was released, which is about how long it took for the first patches to come out for it. Well, it was how long I was able to get the download for. Little studies. A lot of it's just filler room space, a lot of antechambers. That's medieval speak for lazy living rooms. And studies. And a lot of extra rooms. So I imagine that Sukuna would like some company from time to time of other smaller yokai. But yeah, I like to think that after the games, all of the characters who were involved, like Sekibanki, Kagero, and Wakasagi Hime, as well as Sukuna, they all realized that they all got the crap kicked out of them for roughly the same reason. All of them were manipulated by Seija. So, and even with one of the other games, it was a little bit more unrelated, like 10 Desires, where you have the first 2 stages being Yuko and Kyoko. I would like to think that some of the characters actually get to know each other a little bit after the incident. It's like, oh, hey, yeah, I was part of that incident too. Hey, cool, bonding stories. Let's go out and drink sake together and get completely shit-faced. That's generally how I like to think of the games, where everybody has their own little happy ending. Although some people have happier endings than others, whereas Seija just kind of decides that she wants to hate people. Now, let's go ahead and we'll go back outside and I'll point out another couple little nuances that I did about the build. Aside from the walls gradually changing colors as you actually go up through the building, like when you go through the stage. Let's switch back to GM1. I did a guest house. Well, a small guest house, mostly because I didn't like it being a perfectly square build. Like, I really hate square structures. But pagodas are square structures. And actually, this isn't a true pagoda because pagodas, canonically, they have a odd number of floors, and this actually has an even number of floors. It's 6 floors. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Where the 6th one you can't actually access from inside of the building. This is where I was considering putting the secret, but I kind of wanted to make it shine at the very top of it. Beacons look corny. I really hate using beacons, so I just illuminated the crap out of it. inside with a bunch of glowstone. So when you actually look at it from a distance, it is a shining needle castle floating in air, just like the stage name. So the fact that a lot of these places would have guest houses, although they wouldn't actually be inside the castle proper, but when the various warring tribes and stuff were negotiating peace treaties, they would have their representatives come over as a sign of trust to the other feudal region and say, oh, hey, yeah, I'll send my firstborn son. You guys can go talk it up. Please don't kill him. That would be really bad. But they would stay in guest houses, and they would actually be treated fairly well, depending on how their relations were going. So castles like this actually would have guest houses. And it also has kind of a cool view of the castle from the window. I should actually probably change these to gates so you can open the windows and see the view a little better, but that's a project for another time. There's a lot of other projects I've got to help work on the server, like the moon and Chireiden 2.0, which will probably... Chireiden 1.0 will probably be my next video that I do. I'm kind of explaining a little bit of the history about that, but... Yep, nope, this was one of the major builds that I did on the server. The total build time for me working on this was, I believe I did it in about 6 days. The outer wall took me 2 days figuring out what I wanted to do with the details of that, and then from there, it was actually, when I was building this, I actually kept thinking I was making a cake because it had all the different layers. Just kind of like building a real cake, except for it's made out of stone and not edible in the slightest. So, yeah. Another really nice thing that I actually really like about this building is not necessarily the actual building itself, but what ends up getting done with it a lot. In the video Walls did to show off the server, it's the most recent server video that has to do with showing us off and advertising shamelessly to other servers. He actually flips it upside down using the magic of video editing, and that made me very happy because that's what happens when you go to it in the stage. So that's about it for Shining Needle Castle. If you have any questions, comments, concerns, or swear words to yell at me, you can go ahead and do so in the comments.